What's going on, everybody? This is TAETRO, and today I'm going to be answering your questions about being an electronic musician. Let's check it out. Alright, but first things first, if you enjoy live electronic music performances, tutorials, and free sound packs, click that subscribe button down below, and also make sure you go follow me over on Twitch for live streams, twitch.tv/TAETRO, where I just make beats, talk about my workflow, and answer your questions live in the chat. But now I have some questions that you all left on the TAETRO community Facebook page and also the TAETRO community here on YouTube. So let's get into those questions. Alright, these first two questions are coming from the TAETRO Facebook community group. The first question is by Sanjay, and if you haven't yet, be sure to go check out his channel. He's got a lot of really dope content. I'm going to link it in the description below. But Sanjay asks, where does your drive come from? Not just for making music, but for your videos, etc. I guess I'm just never satisfied with being bored, and I'm always trying to make something new, or I'm always trying to learn something. Sometimes I can sit around and watch Netflix or watch YouTube videos, but usually, unless I'm creating something, like, I'm not super happy. So usually it just comes from that drive inside me to make something new, and that's my own personal satisfaction. And then I have this sort of feeling of responsibility that if I learn how to do something, or if I have a hard time learning how to do something, that means somebody else is also having a hard time trying to learn it, especially with the electronic music stuff. So I want to share my ways of learning and my ways of creating, that way it can somehow help somebody else. So that's sort of what drives me to create content, videos, more music, and that sort of thing. There's never an excuse to be bored. The next question comes from Jack, who creates really cool videos with Rolly Blocks and the C-board, and I'll link one of his videos below too as well. He asks, how do you consistently think of content to make? Do you copy trends, or do you try and come up with topics you feel are original? For me, it's sort of easy because I'm really interested in controllerism and trying different MIDI controllers, and each one has their own workflow. So if I can base videos and content off of a single device or off of a set of controllers, then that content sort of writes itself, because you can talk about the pros and cons and then draw comparisons. I used to get really nervous before I started the channel about keeping new ideas coming and keeping it fresh. And I would always think to myself, what if I run out of ideas? But like, as you start creating, you realize that you come up with new ideas every single day. So you can't let that fear really hold you back. You can sort of just start making things and more ideas will come. If there's trends that sort of don't inspire me or that don't line up with what I want to be doing as a musician, I just kind of skip over those. Obviously, I want to feature newer gear because I want to bring you the best, newest, latest information about that gear. But it's also going to have a positive impact on my channel because most people will be searching for that gear when it first comes out or when there's the most hype around it. I need to be inspired to create videos, and I need to feel like I'm being true to myself. So I never want to jump on a trend that isn't something I would probably already do or isn't something that challenges me in a productive way. Alright, I'm going to jump in and take some questions from the TAETRO community on YouTube. The first question is from After Dinner, and he asks, what should I do if my computer is overheating while using Ableton? Just let it do it, or are there some tips that I can follow? This is hard because it's a hardware problem. So your computer might be a little outdated. It also might have a lot of bloatware on it, so software that you don't really need to have on your computer. And there could also be a lot running on your computer that's not necessary. So I would just open up your task manager and make sure every single background task is closed while you're running Ableton. But I used to run into this problem occasionally, especially during the summertime when it's warmer weather. And I would actually take my laptop, and if it overheated, I would put it in the freezer or put it in the fridge, and I don't recommend this. This is probably really bad. And I would just let it sit in there for a couple minutes while it cooled down, because those things can get hot. Also check to make sure your fans are running properly. Your computer should be able to cool itself. It also can never hurt to try to take apart your computer in a minimal way, just the outer shell, and sort of give it a blast of air to make sure there's no dust clogging up any of the holes that air would normally circulate through. Also try to get your laptop off of the ground, off of your lap, off of your desk. Elevate it on a laptop stand, that way you can get air circulating under it and it doesn't get trapped underneath. Ryan asks, how do you master your tracks? I don't do too much to master my tracks. I'm not a mastering engineer by any means. What I'm looking to do when I master my tracks is to bring it up to a professional level volume so that it matches up with all the other tracks that are out there. And then also just make sure that everything is gelling and sounding great together. So usually what I'll do when I master is at the end of composing or the end of creating a track, I take all the volumes and I bring them down at least -5 from where they are. I want to make sure all the meters are reading green, including the master meter. I don't want to see any red. Now this might make my track quieter, but then I'm going to bring in something like the glue compressor in Ableton or H-comp from Waves, and I'm going to add some warmth to it there, and I'm also going to add some volume and level things out. I'll also usually have an EQ on there to maybe brighten up the highs or bring down any low rumble, but it's super simple. But like I said, I'm not a mastering engineer. Manas asks, hey TAETRO, my question, is it easy for me to get into electronic music? I'm 14 years old. What can I do to start getting into it? You can get into electronic music at any age. I think there's accessibility at every level. If I were you and I was intimidated by sort of getting a computer and learning a DAW, I would get a mobile device like an iPad or an iPhone. There are a lot of apps out there where you can learn to make music that make it like super easy, and then you can sort of build up and get into some of the more advanced apps as you go. And that's a way to get into it and save some money. And then he asks about Launchpad, Launch Key, or Complete Control. That really depends on your DAW. If you're using a lot of native instrument stuff, obviously go with Complete. If you're using like Ableton, or probably go with the Launchpad or Launch Key. Launchpad and Launch Key are two different things. One's for launching clips, one's for playing tunes, launching clips. It's sort of like a multi-tool. So be thoughtful about what tool do you need. You wouldn't buy a hammer if you needed a screwdriver. John, who is usually first on all of my videos, asks, what got you interested in creating your own music? I think when I was younger, when I was like a teenager, I used to be really interested in covering songs and singing other people's songs. And when I started thinking about that, I was like, well, I could probably write something like this. I can create something of my own that can have just as much meaning to somebody else as this song does for me. That's sort of where it comes from. How do you change scenes with a knob in Ableton? Very simple. I'm gonna pop it up on the screen now. Basically, you're gonna go into your MIDI map mode, and then on the master channel, you're gonna see these two little arrows appear, and you're gonna set those to a knob, and now you can scroll up and down with a knob. And then what do you recommend for a second MIDI controller? You already have the Alesis V25. You need more knobs and pads. Caro asks LPD8 or NanoPad 2. NanoPad 2, you get more pads, but no knobs, and you also get a touchpad. LPD8, you get pads and knobs. So you say you need more knobs and pads. I would say LPD8 because the NanoPad 2 doesn't have any knobs. Next question. Hey TAETRO, I'm a beginner and I want to buy studio speakers. I thought about the JBL LSR 305 and about the PreSonus Eris E4.5. I think the JBL sounds better, but I want to know, what do you think? If you think the JBL sounds better, you should get them. One thing to remember about buying monitors is that nobody is going to listen to your music through your monitors besides you. And besides anybody you invite over your house, your mom maybe. Everybody else is going to be listening to your music either through earbuds or through their car speakers or even through their computer speakers. So what you need to look for in monitors is something that sounds good to you, which you say the JBLs do, and then something that provides you with an accurate reference of what your track actually sounds like. And you start to learn your own monitors as you compare them to other speakers. So for instance, when I create a track, I don't just listen to it here in my studio, I listen to it in my car, I listen to it on my headphones, and I get a sense for, okay, maybe my KRKs don't have enough sub bass, so I need to be careful to make sure I don't mix in too much and overcompensate. Little things like that you'll learn, but as long as you have monitors that sound great, that keep you energized while you're creating music, you'll be fine. So my suggestion is go with the JBLs because you say those sound better. Dejoda asks, any tips on how to get better at beat making? Make beats every single day. Watch tutorials on how your favorite artists or producers make beats, and then take from all those different inspiration points and create something of your own. Hey TAETRO, what's your video schedule looking like? Because I know you're busy and you're doing the Twitch streams, but should I look more towards Twitch? I wouldn't say you have to look more towards Twitch. If you're looking for my live streams, you definitely should just follow over there and turn notifications on. What I find for myself is that setting a regular schedule can really get monotonous to me, and I start to not look forward to doing things. So if I say I'm going to do a video every Tuesday and Thursday, it becomes more like a job and becomes like, oh, I have to get a video out for Tuesday, I have to get a video out for Thursday, and I don't want to do that, and I also don't want to do that for live streams. I don't want to say, oh, I have to get up and live stream. I want to do it when it feels right, and if I don't set a schedule for myself, I'll be able to do it more often. I kind of need to sneakily get into my subconscious and figure out how to be most productive. So follow both. I'm still pumping out videos here. I'm out of my busy work season, so you're going to start to see more regular videos on the channel. But I always try to communicate when life gets super busy so that you don't expect a video and feel disappointed when I don't upload one. So that's why I ask people just to follow me on Twitter and stuff, because I'll be more open about what's going on day to day on there. Also, what process do you use to make beats? I have trouble with finding what to start with. It's different every time. Sometimes I start with a kick pattern, sometimes I start with a cool pad, sometimes I start with a lead idea. It just matters like what idea do you have in your head, what inspired you in that moment, and what can be your jumping off point. If I'm playing something super moody, I'm grabbing a pad and I'm turning the reverb up and I'm just playing chords. If I'm feeling super amped, I'm loading up a drum kit and I'm pounding out some beats. It's different every time, and don't feel like you have to do the same thing every time. Keep it fresh. So Raph asks, who is your favorite artist and why? It's hard for me to say my favorite artists. Right now I listen to two bands very frequently, Pale Waves and the 1975. You'll notice that they aren't really like electronic music, which is sort of what I make. And I think that's because I don't listen to a ton of the genre that I create in. I listen to a lot of like rock and pop music, but I still try to take things from those influences and apply it here. Also, what do you like better, Novation or Kai? Hard to say. Can't say I like one better than the other because they're two different tools and they're two very usable tools. They both have their pros and cons. All right, so I have time for one more question. The question is spending $27,000 for music production school worth it? Worth it is a very subjective term. What you need to think about is, after you graduate school, what will your plan be? And how much will you be getting paid for whatever job you get out of school? Are you able to get loans? Are you able to pay for it over time? Are you 100% certain that you want to do this with your life? Because that is a huge investment, and for most, college is the biggest investment that you will have made in your life at that point. So be really cautious and be really practical. There's a lot of things you can learn about music production for free or for much cheaper than the cost of higher education. But I did go to school and get a music degree and acquired some student debt that I'm paying off over time. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have the day job that I have now that I love. So these are all things you need to take into account. All right, so that is all the time I have for today. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your question. If I didn't, I'm gonna try to go answer it on my Instagram story. So if you're watching this video, go head over to my Instagram, check my story, and maybe your question got answered over there. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and let me know if you have other questions in the comments down below. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more live electronic music performances, tutorials, and free sound packs. Don't forget to follow me over on Twitch for more live streams. That's twitch.tv/TAETRO music. Thank you so much for watching. This has been TAETRO. Have a good day.